Hello, everyone. I had some time on my hands last weekend, and I got a chance to sit down finally after a very long weekend. I thought, what can I watch? And I put on X Men Days of Future Past, but not just your regular X Men Days of Future Past. I'm talking about X Men Days of Future Past, the Rogue Cut, which I think is the superior cut, which I think is the best cut, which I think is one of the best comic book movies ever. I thoroughly enjoyed this film so much, even just the regular cut when it came out, without watching the road cut. I genuinely enjoyed it. Um, and I thought to myself, I'm like, what went wrong? eh, with the Fox universe? What did they screw up with the X Men? And I realized, I'm like, you know, it's just greed. Honestly, it's just greed. I don't know how else to say it. I think it's just greed. I think after kind of analyzing all of the other films and looking at the trajectory of which they took the series, I looked at it and I'm like, yo, they really messed this shit up so bad. Like the continuity, first of all, of the series is just completely all over the place. Makes zero level sense. One of the things that really kind of confused me the most is like when Logan has the flashbacks of him being tortured by what's his name? You know who I'm talking about? The guy. Oh God, I can't believe I forgot his Striker. Um, it turns into the Striker of X2, but like technically, Wolverine Origins has a different like. You don't understand what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, this is supposed to be the same Wolverine that's from the original X Men, like X Men 1 and 2. Uh, but it's he's in 1973, and in 1973 is when he had the adamantium surgery, and Stryker doesn't look like Stryker. It's just so confusing. Like when you sit down and you think about it, I know a lot of people are like, "Oh yeah, like well, there's this," but it's like, no, man, it doesn't work. But I, I kind of let it slide because, like, I'm kind of happy about it. I was just happy to see everybody back on thing, and I realized that I was like, you know what, this is some good shit. Like, goddamn, I love this. I love this film. Absolutely do. And it's honestly one of my guilty pleasure films. I know a lot of people are probably not a big fan of it, but I honestly loved Days of Future Past. Getting to see Hugh Jackman, Halle Berry, even the setup to Days of Future Past when at the end of the Wolverine we see Magneto and we see Patrick Stewart's Professor X after so many years coming together. Well, not so many years, but just seeing them come together, it was just mind blowing and incredible. I know when it was releasing, I was shook. I was like, "Yo, what are they gonna do?" I think for me, the one of the weird, I guess, like flaws of the film is just like the continuity error, right? It just doesn't kind of make sense. Um, I wasn't a big fan of the way the Sentinels looked either. I understand that it's a more futuristic look, but I didn't like the look of it. I did like the idea that the Sentinels could kind of adapt to their enemy and stuff like that. That was pretty cool. But other than that, I think still one of the best films. Michael Fassbender as Magneto, amazing. Getting to see them playing their counterparts, I guess, in the sense, was just absolutely amazing in real time. James McAvoy, one of my most favorite actors of all time. Truly a man, like in his own, like, he is in his own world and he's in his own stature. He's just an amazing actor, and getting to see him play Professor X, a wounded Professor X too, at that, is just absolutely amazing. I will say the road cut fills in a lot of gaps, a lot of I guess you can call plot holes that the original cut doesn't address. We get to see Rogue, which is amazing. A little bit that like it's a small detail, but it means so much just because we grew up watching it. But yeah, absolutely amazing film. But the point of this kind of rant, I guess, or like this opinionated video is like I really, after watching that film, I really wondered. I was like, where the fuck did Fox go wrong? Like, X Men 1, I'm not saying it's the best film. I'm not saying it's an amazing film. It has its flaws, but it's a good film. It starts off the right way. We get to see Toad, we get to see Sabretooth, we get to see Logan. Like, we get to see these characters kind of building their world together. And then X2 comes along and sets up for Jean's a return as the Phoenix. But what's the most beautiful thing about X2 is just like the way that the story progresses and how all of these characters come together. Nightcrawler's opening fight scene is still one of the best opening fight scenes ever in, I think, in comic book history. Let's be realistic here. Still till this day holds up. You know, Charles feeling the effects of the Phoenix, Jean slowly kind of unraveling herself from the Phoenix's cocoon, in the sense, right? From the ashes rises the Phoenix. Um, Logan fighting Lady Deathstrike, going through his own shit. What's crazy is everybody in this film is going through their own shit, but they get the right amount of screen time, and it works so beautifully. Magneto coming together, working with the X-Men and Mystique and everything, just perfection to its like perfection. Like, I don't even know how to say it. Like, perfection to the best of its capability, and it's just amazing. And then came along X3, and I think because of the loss of the original director, whose name I cannot remember, but I think he's also kind of iffy. He might be a bit of a pedo or some shit, and he's not really easy to work with. But because of that, or maybe it's not him and it's Brett Ratner who's the pedo, I can't remember. But with the change of that, X3 ruins everything. Again, we still, till this day, we have two iterations of Dark Phoenix, and both sucked like crazy, unfortunately. Like, I remember, if you guys remember Tribute.ca or Tribute, back in the day, they used to play the trailers. For me, it was like Channel 21, and like they used to play the trailers and stuff. And I remember seeing the trailer for X3, and I was looking at my sister. I'm like, yo, this is going to be the craziest movie. They're all coming together to fight each other. Like, this is like comic book galore. This is going to be absolutely amazing. This is going to be so cool. Right. And I watched the film and I thought, this was so cool. But then I rewatched it now and I'm like, yeah, I see why people hated on this film when it came out. And I can see why it wasn't really that good and like where the story was headed. Rogue was nerfed completely in the film, no idea why. Um, Cyclops was killed 10 minutes into the film. Again, a huge mistake on that part. They killed off Patrick Stewart, although they did bring him back in the teaser, or sorry, in the Easter egg scene or whatever, post credit scene. But again, total fail on that part as well. Although seeing him die was a pretty cool thing, I'm not gonna lie. I think the highlights of the film was Jean. Jansen did an amazing job playing her, given what she had. Ian McKellen, amazing. Doing what he did. Juggernaut, he had like all of maybe 10 lines, and every line was perfect, in my opinion. Juggernaut was amazing. Although he wasn't like the Juggernaut we know from the comics and whatnot, but he was still a pretty good Juggernaut. Um, Iceman versus Pyro, that was a pretty cool moment there. But again, it just didn't land as it should have. And then from there, instead of expanding on that universe, which I guess I kind of understand they couldn't because they kind of ended up killing half the people and it just didn't kind of really make sense. And then leaving us with this really shitty post credit scene of, Moira McTaggart there, like seeing, what do you call it, Xavier come back into that body or whatever. They just decided, okay, we're going to focus on Wolverine, which at the time it made sense because the reality was Hugh Jackman's Wolverine became a fan favorite. It became, I think, the face of X-Men at that moment, right? Nobody could relate to any other character because I think they just it just wasn't there, right? The connection that people had with Hugh Jackman and Wolverine, it it it's still here today, and it's proven to be, one of the strongest connections people have to this comic book character, right? When you think of Wolverine, you think of Hugh Jackman automatically. You don't think about kind of the comic book iteration of him. You think of, Hugh Jackman playing him. Like, it's a thought. It's one of the first few thoughts that come to your head. And they went with it, and they decided to do X-Men Origins, and I think they were trying to do like origin stories of each character, but they did X-Men Origins, and it was garbage. Wolverine Origins, like, again, nothing to Hugh Jackman, just the story was shit, CGI claws. People will always remember that. Absolute trash. And like, it just didn't make sense. It didn't work. Like, I genuinely, when I was a kid, I remember I watched it with my sister. I had the worst headache of my life that day. And I went to go watch it, and I came back home, and I was like, yo, this was such a good movie. But again, I was a kid. I didn't know. I didn't understand. It didn't make sense. The opening sequence was absolutely amazing. Him fighting through the wars with his brother Sabretooth. It was like crazy. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. We got our first iteration of Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool. We got to see all these characters come to life. And we're like, yo, crazy. And I love Liev Schreiber as Sabretooth, and I wish they brought him back because he was just so fucking good at it. But again, like, story didn't make sense. Things just didn't work. Like, it just didn't work. It didn't work. I'm so sorry. It wasn't there. There were some great moments, and then there were some really terrible moments that followed up. Action sequences that looked like garbage. Some of the again, CGI claws. Some of the most emotional moments didn't really land properly. Gambit, they just fucked up Gambit, and it had nothing to do with the actor. I forget his name. I think it's Taylor something. Taylor Kitsch, I think his name is. Again, it wasn't him. Again, it was just the direction he was given. It just didn't work. It just didn't work. It didn't set up, right? And then on top of that, I remember when X-Men Origins was coming out, they were doing the soft reboot where they were going to do X-Men First Class. And again, Emma Stone is X-Men First Class. Emma Stone is an X-Men Wolverine Origins. It doesn't make sense because Wolverine Origins shows Professor X as a Patrick Stewart, not freaking James McAvoy. But in James McAvoy's version, Emma Stone is like freaking her, like, old and shit. But in Wolverine Origin, Emma Stone is young and like is a child. Like, what the hell? Like, where's the continuity? Right? It felt like it was a soft reboot, which is what I think they were trying to do. And then, X-Men First Class came out. Amazing film. I still, till this day, watch it almost like at least 3 or 4 times a year. I love it. I love the music. I love everything about it. I loved the chemistry between Fassbender and McAvoy. It was perfect. Like, honestly, it was like two best friends who were torn apart. And it's just an amazing film to watch. And you watch that film, you're like, holy crap, that's amazing. And again, you get to see the lesser known X-Men, and they shine. They do amazing. Azazel, you get to see Firefly, sorry. You get to see Scott Summers' brother Havoc. You get to see Beast. Like, you get to see all of those things. And again, amazing film. But in I think personally, it just doesn't. I don't know what happened. It just didn't work for some reason, or it did. And First Class was amazingly done well, right? And then right after that, they announced, and then I think the Wolverine came out, which again, Silver Samurai, sorry, didn't. I don't know. I personally am not a big fan of the Wolverine. I just felt like it was missing something, and I felt like Silver Samurai shouldn't have been a big gigantic robot, but actually the Silver Samurai himself, Samurai. I don't know why I keep saying Samurai. I'm so sorry, guys. But for some reason they decided to go that way, and it made no fucking sense to me. But it was like an okay film, and then they led up to Days of Future Past, which to me I was like, oh my god, they're back on the right path. But again, continuity error, time manage, like it didn't make any sense, right? And then they led with Apocalypse, and I don't know. A lot of people are very mixed on Apocalypse and stuff like that, but I personally think Apocalypse was a terrible film. I don't think Oscar Isaac was a good choice for that film. He did not resemble Apocalypse to me at all. I've seen Apocalypse growing up, watching the cartoon, reading the comics, and he's just like a menacing figure, and I just didn't get that from Oscar Isaac. Um, we got Storm and everything, and I felt like they were also all underplayed. Again, it became a kind of about Magneto and Professor X and Apocalypse, and then like Jean kind of came out of there. We got another great scene from what's his name? Ah, crap. Magneto's son. What, I can't even remember his name. I've been like, I'm just so out of it. What's his name? Quicksilver. We got a great scene from there again. That was amazing to watch. But again, it just felt lackluster. Something was off about it. And then we move on to, the Dark Phoenix, which is like, I don't even think they even tried, to be quite honest. I felt like they just had to make a movie and they were like, just make something and put it out there. Like, they didn't even give a shit. Like, they actually didn't. I don't even remember the names of the villains. I just know that they're part of the comic book world and the history and everything. But I don't even remember what they were, who they were in that sense. And I think that also kind of sucked and took away from all of this entirety. If I'm being realistic, like they just, again, we got another iteration of what do you call it, of the Dark Phoenix, and they fucked it up again. They totally messed it up, and they didn't even give a shit. I felt like we were robbed of a great film because, again, the cast was good. The cast had built the chemistry. They had built um, the what do you call it, the world. It was slowly building and it was doing it so well, and then they just had to fuck it up with whatever they did. So I don't know, man. I felt like the Fox franchise, or the X-Men franchise with the Fox team, they were just looking for money somehow, and that's all they wanted, and that's all they wanted to do, and they didn't really care for anything else, and they didn't want to do anything else. So and they messed up what could have been an amazing run for Fox. This was a gold mine, and Fox effed it up so bad that I don't think they even realize it, and they probably won't until the MCU actually brings in the X-Men and show them, hopefully, how it's done. Because right now they're on the right path with the big Cyclops teaser and stuff like that. But again, this could be just a stunt just to bring us back. But hopefully the MCU does justice to the X-Men that they deserve, right? And I hope one day we can finally recast Hugh Jackman. No hard feelings to him. I absolutely love this man. He is an amazing actor. He has given us so many memories. And when he truly said in Wolverine and Deadpool, like, I am the X-Men, he is the X-Men. Whether people want to admit it or not, he actually is the X-Men. He is the X-Men of our childhood. And I really hope that they give him a proper send-off, whether that's in Secret Wars where they kill him off finally, or if they change it up and do something a little bit different. So I absolutely love it. But yeah, again, I will always stand by and say that, to me, the X Men series itself will always be my favorite. I will always enjoy every film. I can criticize every film, but um, I will never say that I never enjoyed these films growing up. I love these films. I still do till this day. Yeah, like some of them could have been better than others, but I still enjoy every single one of them every time I rewatch them. Again, Days of Future Past, one of my favorite. I can watch that almost like every day back to back. I don't even give a shit, to be quite honest. I absolutely adore that film to death. So yeah, I'd love to hear your opinion about it. How you guys feel about the X Men universe? Leave a comment, let me know, and I'll catch you on the next one.